Hello? Is anybody here?
The heavy mahogany table held only two things: a loaded Glock 19 and a glass of amber hibiki whiskey, untouched. The ice inside had already melted. No one had taken a sip, because the men sitting around that table weren't here to drink. They were here to decide who dies first. Across from the gun sat the man they all feared. They called him the Ghost. His tattooed fingers rested inches from the trigger. Not moving. Not trembling. Just waiting. Around him, rival gang bosses watched in silence. Their bodyguards lined the walls like statues, hands buried inside jackets, fingers resting on cold steel. One word. That's all it would take. One word. And the streets of Seoul would drown in blood. Then suddenly, the oak doors creaked open. Every gun shifted. Every head turned. The room inhaled at the same time. But the person who stepped inside wasn't an assassin. It was a ballerina. She wore a pale white tutu that looked almost fragile under the dim lights. Her ballet shoes whispered softly against the dark floor. Tap, tap, tap. A thin white cane touched the ground in front of her, and a silk blindfold covered her eyes. The men in the room stared in confusion. This was the most dangerous meeting in the city. And somehow, a blind dancer had just walked straight into it. Her voice floated through the silence. Soft, gentle, almost musical. Hello. She tilted her head slightly. Is someone here? Her name was Anita Rose, and she had absolutely no idea how close she was to dying. One of the Ghost's men moved immediately. Boss, we remove her. His hand reached toward her shoulder. But suddenly, the Ghost raised a single finger. The movement was small, but it froze the entire room. The bodyguard stopped mid-step. No one spoke. The Ghost stared at the girl, at the cane, at the blindfold, at the way she stood there, calm, peaceful, in a room filled with killers. His voice came out low, almost quiet enough to miss. Don't touch her. The men exchanged confused looks. Then he said something that made every gangster in the room blink. Let her dance. For a moment, nobody moved. Not the rival bosses. Not the bodyguards. Not even the girl. Then Anita slowly folded her cane. She placed it gently against the wall and stepped forward. Her toes touched the floor like feathers. Her arms lifted. The room held its breath. Then, she began to dance. Her movements were light, precise. Every step landed softly against the wood. Every spin felt effortless, like she was floating. The room full of killers didn't make a sound. Men who had ordered executions, men who had started wars, were now sitting silently, watching a blind ballerina dance. The Ghost leaned back in his chair. The Glock remained on the table. Forgotten. For the first time in 10 years. His finger wasn't on a trigger. And without anyone saying it out loud, the war stopped. In Seoul's underworld, the Ghost wasn't just a leader. He was a myth. A story told in whispers. People said he appeared out of nowhere, finished the job, then disappeared before anyone could even scream. That's how he got the name. Ghost. His body told the rest of the story. Dark tattoos crawled up his arms, across his chest, and wrapped around his neck. Dragons. Lotus flowers. Black ink marking victories that were written in blood. To his organization, he wasn't human. He was a machine. Cold. Logical. Precise. Violence to him wasn't anger. It was mathematics. But something strange happened the night Anita walked into that room. For the first time in years, silence didn't feel powerful. It felt empty. Anita lived in a completely different universe. She had been blind since she was 8. But she didn't move like someone trapped in darkness. She moved like someone who understood it. The dance studio was her entire world. The smooth wooden bar beneath her fingertips. The faint vibrations on the floor beneath her shoes. The small echoes in the room when someone walked too close. She didn't need eyes. Her body remembered everything. Outside the studio walls, the city simmered with criminal tension. Guns. Deals. Betrayals. But inside, her entire world was just rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. She had no idea that somewhere in the shadows, the most dangerous man in Seoul had started watching her. The ghost began visiting the theater at night. Always late. Always alone. He would slip into the back row where the lights couldn't reach him. From there he watched. On stage, Anita moved like pale silk, floating through darkness. Her turns were flawless. Her balance impossible. She danced with a peace he had never known. And slowly, something inside him began to change. For 1 hour every night, the noise in his head disappeared. No threats. No enemies. No calculations. Just music. Just movement. Just her. For 1 hour. The ghost wasn't a kingpin. He was just a man in the dark, watching something beautiful. They met by accident. A quiet cafe near the theater. The smell of roasted coffee filled the air. The ghost sat alone in the corner, staring at a glass of whiskey. Then he heard it. Tap. 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 Her cane. She walked past his table. The tip bumped gently into his shoe. She stopped. Oh, sorry. Before she could lose balance, his hand reached out. He steadied her arm. Careful. His voice was rough. Deep. She tilted her head slightly. Listening. Then she smiled. You're a businessman. The ghost raised an eyebrow. How can you tell? Her fingers brushed lightly against his sleeve. Your suit is expensive. She leaned closer. And you smell like paper and difficult decisions. For the first time in years. The ghost almost smiled. Then her hand touched his wrist. She froze. Her fingers rested over his pulse. You're shaking. He didn't pull away. Her voice dropped to a whisper, like a violin string pulled too tight. And suddenly, the most dangerous man in Seoul realized something terrifying. She could feel everything he was trying to hide. But the underworld notices weakness. And whispers travel fast. Soon rival gangs were talking. The ghost has changed. All because of a ballerina. In the criminal world, that kind of rumor is blood in the water. And every predator started circling. They all reached the same conclusion. If you want to destroy the ghost, you don't attack him. You attack her. One evening after rehearsal, they walked through a quiet park. Rain clouds hung low in the sky. Streetlights flickered softly above them. Anita held his arm as they walked. Laughing. Relaxed. For the first time in years, the ghost allowed himself to feel normal. Then he saw it. A black sedan parked across the street. Engine running. Watching. His muscles instantly tightened. Anita felt it through his sleeve. You stopped breathing, she said quietly. Before he could answer, a man stepped from the shadows. He flicked open a lighter. Click. The sound echoed through the empty park. Nice night, boss. The ghost's eyes hardened. The man leaned closer. The others are wondering when the ghost will come back. Then his gaze slid toward Anita. A slow smile spread across his face. And just like that, the message was clear. She was no longer a secret. She was a target. The attack came during her performance. The theater was full. Golden lights bathed the stage. Music filled the hall. Anita stepped forward for her solo. She moved like a feather floating through air. The audience watched in awe. But backstage, the ghost felt something shift. A draft. A shadow moving where it shouldn't. Then he saw them. 3 men slipping down the aisle. Silenced pistols. Aiming for the stage. Aiming for her. Something ancient woke up inside him. The ghost moved. Vast. Silent. Deadly. The first man collapsed before he understood what happened. The second dropped with a knife buried deep in his throat. The third tried to run. He never made it 3 steps. Bodies hit the ground backstage. Blood spread across the tiles. And on stage, Anita kept dancing. Graceful. Peaceful. Unaware that death had just passed inches away. The ghost stood there breathing hard. Looking at his hands. Red again. He finally understood the truth. He could never keep her safe. While he remained who he was. So he did the impossible. He walked into the council of crime bosses. And gave everything away. His power. His territory. His empire. But the underworld has rules. No one walks away for free. They demanded the trial of the blade. His own men lined up. One by one. Steel flashed. Chains swung. Knives cut deep. And the ghost never fought back. Every wound was payment. Every scar was the price of freedom. Months later, the theater lights dimmed once again. Anita stepped onto the stage. The music began. In the very back row, a quiet man sat alone. Simple clothes. Dozens of hidden scars beneath the fabric. No power. No empire. Just a man. Anita suddenly paused mid-movement. Her head tilted slightly. She inhaled softly. Leather. Whiskey. Rain. A familiar scent. A slow smile spread across her face. Without saying a word, she began dancing again. But this time, every movement was meant for one person. The man who used to rule the shadows. And gave up everything. Just to sit in the dark. And watch her dance.